strongly encourage everyone to stay home if you do not have to be out.
The Memphis police chief is asking everyone to stay home tonight after rapper Young Dolph is down at a South Memphis cookie shop.
There will be extra police presence in many parts of the city that might have a connection to the popular rapper to make sure there is no.
Authorities are stepping up security across multiple areas of the city believed to be linked to the late rapper, aiming to prevent any further incidents. Meanwhile, the trial over Young Dolph's tragic death officially commenced today, unveiling shocking details previously unknown about the circumstances surrounding his passing. During opening statements, Dolph's longtime bodyguard testified, revealing that the rapper had been entangled in a prolonged feud with CMG, the record label led by Yo Gotti. According to the testimony, this rivalry escalated to a dangerous level, with allegations that Yo Gotti ultimately financed efforts to target Young Dolph.
That's his chain, the PRE.
And what did PRE stand for?
Paper Route Entertainment.
Did he have any issues with other labels?
Yes, ma'am.
What label was that?
CMG.
And what does CMG stand for?
I really don't know what it stands for.
Okay, CMG. And the label you mentioned, CMG, that he had conflict with, that he used to go and had conflict with. Who are some of the artists on that label, if you're familiar?
The only one that I knew of was the Yo Gotti.
Young Dolph's bodyguard made it clear to the jury that the rapper had built up a number of enemies over the years, setting the stage for the prosecutors to present police files that had never been seen before. These detailed reports shed light on exactly how Dolph was killed and who was responsible, offering context that made the tragic events more understandable. The documents are so thorough that they even include accounts of Dolph's final words. But first, show your support for Young Dolph by liking the video. The trial opened with prosecutors recounting the fateful day, Tuesday, November 17, 2021. On that morning, Young Dolph visited Makida's homemade butter cookies, a cherished local bakery he frequented whenever he returned to Memphis. At 36 years old, he was back in town for his annual Thanksgiving charity event, a gesture of gratitude to the community that had supported him throughout his rise in the music industry. This routine visit, meant to be a simple act of giving back, tragically became the backdrop for one of the most shocking moments in Memphis hip-hop history. On that bright early afternoon, Young Dolph was inside his favorite bakery, waiting for his order, when a white two-door Mercedes pulled up outside. In a matter of seconds, the calm of the shop was shattered as two masked assailants jumped out of the vehicle, armed and prepared. Their sole target, Young Dolph, who was there with only his brother. In court, the suspect's girlfriend testified, confirming the plan, revealing that her boyfriend was the main instigator. He had leapt from the Mercedes first, directly confronting Young Dolph and carrying out the attack. According to police reports, the attack unfolded in broad daylight. Surveillance footage later captured two men dressed in sweatshirts and masks, one wielding a banana clip rifle, the other carrying a standard handgun. At exactly 12:24 p.m., Memphis police received frantic calls reporting that Young Dolph was lying on the floor of Makida's homemade butter cookies, critically wounded after the two masked assailants opened fire through the shop's window. Inside, employees scrambled for cover as bullets tore through glass and walls. Young Dolph's brother, who had been with him, managed to evade the initial assault, but Dolph himself was struck 22 times, leaving no chance for survival. Tragically, he passed at the scene before emergency responders arrived. Witnesses inside the bakery later told police that someone had just pulled up and executed the attack, leaving the community in shock as word spread about their beloved hometown rapper being gunned down in such a familiar, local setting. Outside, bystanders were stunned, struggling to process the violence that had erupted in the middle of a quiet neighborhood cookie shop. The two shooters fled in the white Mercedes just as quickly as they had arrived. But not before Young Dolph's brother retrieved a firearm from his Corvette and fired back at the fleeing vehicle, leaving a chaotic scene littered with shattered glass and spent shell casings. Despite their attempt to escape, Law enforcement would later apprehend the perpetrators in a manner that stunned even seasoned observers. The main suspect, identified as Cornelius Smith, was revealed during the trial through the testimony of his own girlfriend. She detailed the entire operation, explaining that Big Juke, a close affiliate of Yo Gotti, had allegedly financed the hit on Young Dolph. According to her, both Big Juke and Yo Gotti were key figures within CMG, and it was their organization that placed a bounty on Dolph's life. Her testimony painted a chilling picture of premeditation, showing how a combination of personal vendettas and label rivalries escalated to one of the most shocking murders in recent hip-hop history. She also testified that following the attack, the suspects retreated to a nearby apartment complex to lay low, changing their clothes to avoid detection. Afterward, they called her to come pick them up, a request that left her furious, highlighting her anger and disbelief at being dragged into the aftermath of such a violent crime. Once surveillance images of the getaway vehicle were released, the search for Young Dolph's attackers intensified. The discovery shocked many. Prosecutors revealed that the white Mercedes had been parked just across the street from a man named Hernandez Govin's residence. Hernandez, as testified in court, had collaborated with Big Juke and Yo Gotti to orchestrate the entire deadly plot, placing him at the center of the operation that ultimately led to Young Dolph's tragic death.
Have an event or something big going on during November.
Yes, ma'am. Every November, he would do a turkey drive for the community.
And explain us what you mean by turkey drive.
He would go to several communities and give out turkeys.
And would he do this personally?
Yes.
Did he also have members of his label there as well?
Yes, ma'am.
In November of 2021, was he in Memphis doing this?
He was in Memphis, but he didn't participate in it.
When authorities discovered the white Mercedes parked across from Hernandez's residence, the case quickly gained clarity. There was no doubt about who was involved. With mounting evidence linking the vehicle to the crime, law enforcement launched an all-out manhunt for the two shooters and Hernandez himself. Federal marshals, Memphis police detectives, and Tennessee state troopers coordinated their efforts to track the trio. By early January 2022, investigators announced a major breakthrough. The two primary suspects had been identified and formally indicted by a grand jury for Young Dolph's murder. On January 5, 2022, the U.S. Marshals Service publicly named Justin Johnson, a 23-year-old Memphis resident and aspiring rapper known online as Straight Drop, as one of the key accomplices in the hit. Johnson had previously taken to social media proclaiming his innocence, even hinting at a potential voluntary surrender, but instead, he vanished. A week later, authorities received a tip placing him on a highway in Indiana. This led to a coordinated arrest operation on January 11th, where Johnson was apprehended near Brazil, Indiana, riding in a truck with another man. The arrest was peaceful, bringing an end to the nationwide search for one of the suspected shooters. The second suspect, Cornelius Smith, was later taken into custody for his role in Young Dolph's murder. Smith ultimately provided critical information implicating CMG affiliates Yo Gotti and Hernandez, further unraveling the conspiracy. Interestingly, Cornelius had already been jailed for stealing the white Mercedes, which proved to be a key link in the investigation. Law enforcement impounded the vehicle parked outside Hernandez's home and discovered personal belongings inside that directly tied Cornelius to the car and the crime. On January 18, 2022, a Shelby County grand jury formally indicted both Johnson and Smith on first-degree murder charges in connection to Young Dolph's death. The investigation took another turn when Cornelius's girlfriend, arrested for providing transportation at the nearby apartment complex where the suspects had hidden and changed clothes, cooperated with authorities. She testified against him in court, confirming his role and further solidifying the case against the shooters. The meticulous coordination between law enforcement agencies, the evidence recovered from the Mercedes, and insider testimony collectively unraveled the plot behind Young Dolph's murder. From the nationwide manhunt to the courtroom revelations, Every detail pointed to a carefully orchestrated plan that ultimately exposed the involvement of multiple parties, cementing the path to justice for the late rapper.
Something about a hit.
A hit on who?
Dolph.
So Cornelius Smith told you that he talked about a Dolph hit with Hernandez go down.
Yes.
Okay. So do you remember when Mr. Smith told you about that conversation?
I can't remember the exact date.
Was it in 2021? Was it hot or cold outside? Do you remember?
It was hotter.
Although she wanted to stay out of the courtroom drama, she made it clear she was not admitting to any crime herself. She told authorities she was willing to cooperate fully and share everything she knew. In her testimony, she recounted the last time she had seen her boyfriend, Cornelius, before his arrest, providing a first-hand account of his actions and movements leading up to that moment. Faced with his girlfriend's testimony against him, Cornelius chose to cooperate as well, realizing the walls were closing in. When he stepped into the courtroom, he began naming names, revealing everyone connected to the plot. One of his very first statements identified the individual who had paid him to carry out the crime, setting the stage for a cascade of shocking revelations. Cornelius did not hesitate to expose Hernandez, the man who orchestrated the plan against Young Dolph. He testified that when he arrived at Hernandez's residence, Hernandez asked if he wanted to earn some money. Cornelius, struggling financially at the time, immediately agreed. Hernandez then laid out the plan, explaining exactly how Cornelius would make the cash, setting the wheels of the deadly plot in motion. When Cornelius mentioned bounties on paper, he was directly referring to Young Dolph's label, Paper Route Empire. He went on to describe, in chilling detail, the sums of money he would have earned for carrying out the hits, laying out the exact amounts tied to each task. His testimony stunned everyone in the courtroom, leaving the room in a stunned silence as the scale and cold calculation of the plot became undeniable.
A dollar amount.
He mentioned a dollar amount.
Do you remember what that dollar amount was?
It was between $1 million and 1.5.
Okay. And so this discussion that y'all had, was it before Adolph Horton?
Yeah.
Okay. And so did Mr. Smith ever tell you any specifics about this hit on Dolph?
The jury was then walked through the tangled web of animosity between Yodi, CMG, and Young Dolph, with evidence that seemed almost unbelievable. The story began back in Memphis, where both rappers were rising stars. In 2014, Yodi tried to recruit Young Dolph to his label, but Dolph refused, determined to stay independent and build his own empire, Paper Route Empire. That rejection sparked tension, and over the years, the feud only intensified. Things escalated dramatically when Young Dolph dropped a diss track titled Play With Your Girl, directly mocking Yo Gotti in ways that struck hard. From that point, the conflict turned violent. In 2017, Dolph's vehicle came under fire in Charlotte. He survived thanks to a bulletproof SUV, but the attacks continued. Later that same year, he was targeted again in Las Vegas, barely escaping with his life. Law enforcement even considered Yo Gotti a person of interest at one stage, though he faced no charges. One of Gotti's associates, Black Youngsta, was arrested in connection with the Charlotte shooting. By 2021, the animosity had not faded. Prosecutors revealed that Big Juke, Yodi's older brother, had placed a $100,000 bounty on Young Dolph, essentially offering a payoff for someone to carry out the murder. Smaller bounties were reportedly set on other rappers signed to Dolph's Paper Route Empire, marking them as rivals to CMG. Hernandez Gavin emerged as the alleged architect of the plan. He provided the two gunmen, Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith, with Young Dolph's location, assuring them they would be paid upon completing the hit. Cornelius testified that Hernandez personally gave them the go-ahead, confirming Dolph's presence at the cookie shop and offering the chance to carry out the attack. The plot unraveled further when investigators discovered the white Mercedes used in the crime parked across the street from Hernandez's own home, directly linking him to the operation. The case painted a chilling picture of betrayal, premeditation, and violence within the rap industry, showing how rivalries, money, and ambition can escalate into deadly consequences. Cornelius's testimony laid bare every detail, from the setup to the execution, leaving no doubt in the courtroom about how the tragic events unfolded.